Welcome
What's
to
happening?
Football or Soccer, the podcast with me, Sam Palmer.
And me, Tony Taafe.
How are you, mate?
I'm good, mate. It was a good weekend for the Reds. It was a
Very
good weekend for the Reds.
It was we're going to jump into that. Obviously, I know you're very excited for this week. There's been a lot of news this week we've got to get through. I want to start things, though, today by saying congratulations to friend of the pod, Derek Williams, who plays for Atlanta here in the States in the MLS. They were playing their game 2 of the playoff series against Inter Miami. And Derek, they were 1-0 down after the first leg. And Derek scored against Inter Miami. And they won, I think it was 2-1 in the end.
I heard he marked Messi off the park as well.
Yeah, he was unbelievable again. I couldn't believe it when I saw it because Derek is, for those who don't know, Derek is a left-sided centre-half, Irish. He came over to the MLS, played for LA Galaxy, then went to Washington. Now he's Atlanta. And I watched their first game. Brad Guzan. Do you remember Brad Guzan, who was at Villa, the goalkeeper?
I mean, the name
Played
rings a
the
bell, but
Premiership
no.
for years. And he was, honestly, if Real Madrid are not thinking of signing Guzman, I think he's about 39 at the minute, 38, 39. It was the most unbelievable display from a goalkeeper I think I've ever seen. They were so unlucky in the first game. But obviously, they're playing against Messi. Derek's marking Messi and Suarez, but he scored the goal. It's
Could you imagine?
unbelievable. So well done, Derek. I can't believe it. I don't know. He must have been going to bed having nightmares before that game.
Before the game, but after the game, he's going to bed dreaming.
I saw the stadium in Atlanta. It was absolutely packed. So it goes to game 3. I think it's Friday or Saturday night. And if they win in Miami, they go through to the next round.
Yeah. It's is it November 5th, is it? Or is it the 7th? It's something like that, isn't it?
I don't know, actually. I'd have to have a look.
I was surprised that there was like 2 weeks between legs.
Yeah.
There was a while between the legs, yeah. And then LAFC got pumped, didn't they? By Vancouver.
After winning the first game.
Yeah.
So a lot to play for in the MLS.
It's so funny with these, I know we spoke about it before, but it's funny with these MLS games where you win your league, but you don't win the league, if you know what I mean. Like
no
you've
one
got
cares
to then
about
go
the
and win
league
another
champion.
mini league. Yeah.
But
yeah, congratulations, Derek, mate. Good job, and I look forward to hearing about Messi and Suarez. My God, two of the best in our era, anyway.
Yeah, and he's actually also, I think his debut for Ireland, he marked Mbappe as well. So he's
Did he really?
A guy that's played in the MLS. I've been up against certain people.
Bananas. That's crazy.
But let's kick off today with the breaking news, huge news coming out of Arsenal. Edu has decided to call it a day, and it looks like he's going to the Forest Group, which they own Olympiacos, Nottingham Forest. I think there's one other. And it looks like...
do they own a French team?
I think so.
Yeah. Listen, if this was 10 years ago, we wouldn't even know that a director of football, that's what he is, right? Director of football. I think he was Arsenal's
sporting director.
Sporting director. So he's the first ever one that existed for Arsenal. But he's essentially, back in the day, we would call that the chief executive, wouldn't we? He's the person who makes the decisions above the manager, and then you've got the owner and etc. We would never have even known that the Arsenal sporting director left or was going to leave. We would never have even known, and we wouldn't have cared either. But now, We would only care if it was our club, and even honestly, if it was our club, like I remember Rick Parry leaving Liverpool back in must have been the late '90s, and I was like, oh, mad, but who cares? I didn't really care. But now they have such a huge role in clubs, these people, that this could be actually a thing for Arsenal, where it could. I mean, it could go either way. Obviously, it could go better or worse, but it could be a problem for Arsenal. This.
I think he won at the Ballon d'Or, I think it was, the Golden Boy. I don't know if it was Ballon d'Or or Golden Boy, Sporting Director of the Year last year.
Recently, on the last.
Yeah, I actually I read that this morning in The Athletic. So he's recognised as the best at the moment.
Yeah.
For those who don't know, Edu used to play for Arsenal, played in the Invincibles team, the team that went unbeaten. And he has come on, he's taken a different role to a lot of people, actually, for a younger guy. We used to see this role, I suppose, years ago. There were a lot older guys that took this role. But he's taken it on. And we've got to say, with Arteta, has revamped Arsenal. His first sort of challenge was to get rid of a lot of the big earners and maybe older players, Aubameyang, Ozil, Lacazette, etc. They kind of redeveloped this squad for a younger, more hungry team. And I think him and Arteta have worked very, very closely together. It seems that they're very good friends. So it's a big coup for the Forest group if he hasn't signed yet.
I saw it on the Mail this morning as well. I saw it, and it said he's going to a Premier League rival. You know, the Mail, they don't put anything in the headline because they want you to click on the article, and then they'll actually tell you who it is halfway down. And I was thinking, I was trying to rack my brains before, because I was like, who's it going to be? Because I just didn't. I hate scrolling on articles, especially if I don't really. You know, it's not about Liverpool, so it's not the end of the world if I don't know who it is. Forest would not have been anywhere near the top of my guesses. It wouldn't have been anywhere near. However, look at them this year.
Well, Forest at the moment, we'll come to Forest later, but Forest are sitting third at the moment in the Premier League. They have conceded, I think, 7 goals. I think they're second best defence in the Premiership at this moment, next to Liverpool, who have conceded 6.
Yeah.
Because I've seen a meme going around this week about Arsenal saying best defence in Europe, 11 goals conceded. And Manchester United, I think until yesterday, had conceded 11 as well. They conceded 12 now. So it's kind of funny with football perceptions. If the media leads you to believe one thing, like Ten Hag's lost his job, Man United's defence is awful, etc., leaking goals. But even though 11 goals is pretty average for top half of the teams in the Premiership, it's around that. Obviously, the bottom is a lot more. Like you get down to West Ham, even Brentford have conceded 18. They just scored a lot. But like the bottom is 27 with Wolves, but West Ham have conceded 19.
And that's why we all like Thomas Frank, isn't it? Because we don't really remember the goals that they can see. We just know that they're an exciting team to watch.
Exactly.
You know?
But this is a big moment for Arsenal. I think one thing to bear in mind is they have created quite a young squad now at Arsenal. So he's not leaving with a rebuild that needs to happen at the end of the season, for example. So he's leaving them in a very, very, very strong position. But it's a tough job for the next person who comes in to follow on.
Yeah, it is. I mean, the good thing is Arteta will obviously still be there. And I know for some bizarre reason, Arsenal fans, including one of our close mates, James, and the first chance he gets to jump on Arteta's back, he'll do it. I like Arteta.
Well, is that football fans?
I've always liked him. What's that?
Is that football fans in general?
No, I don't think so. I don't know. Maybe. I don't know. It's not Liverpool fans. if Slot would have had a slow start, for example, I think they would have, said, all right, we need to give them time. But Arteta's taken them as close to winning the league as since Arsene Wenger, and they just seem that they're not, obviously I'm not speaking for all Arsenal fans, but a lot of them seem to just not want him there for some reason. Like he can't take us to that last step, but that last step is really fucking hard when you've got Pep Guardiola standing in your way. There's very few people on the planet who could take them that last step. Look at Klopp. Klopp rarely took Liverpool to that last step. Once he did it in the Premier League, at least. We
The
didn't. We,
difference that
we
I
were
will
not
say
like,
with
no,
Klopp,
he's not for us.
Yeah.
I don't know. The point of saying that was not to take it on to Klopp. It was to say that I really like Arteta. I think he's really good, and I don't know how Arsenal could do better than him. Like who else? Who?
Well, so a question of mine is, does Arteta get a little bit of an easier ride than other managers? Because he is, in that 5 years, he's won one FA Cup. Now, Klopp did win Champions Leagues, FA Cups, League Cups, in between not winning the league, right? Okay, only one person can win the league, and Manchester City have won it 6 out of 7 or 7 out of 8, whatever it is.
Yeah.
So Ten Hag, for example, has won 2 cups in that time.
Are you seriously putting an argument forward that Ten Hag is more successful than Arteta?
No, I'm not at all. But I'm saying he did deliver a couple of trophies, which Arteta has not. And should Arsenal, maybe not the Champions League, let's just say, but should they have been winning a FA Cup, a League Cup, a bit more in that time?
They should have. They should
once in 5 years that he's been there.
Yeah, they should have. Yeah, I don't think there's any doubt. I would imagine, and I would guess, I should say, is that Arteta has known that he hasn't had the squad to challenge on more than one front, and has just rolled the dice on the league. I would imagine, because they've never even really come close, have they? Apart from when they won it, the FA Cup, they've never come close to winning it again, or even a League Cup.
But that's where I say, okay, has Liverpool got a greater squad than Arsenal?
I think so. I
don't know.
I wouldn't say greater, but I would say it's comparable.
You look at Arsenal's bench, you've got Jesus, Zinchenko, Raheem Sterling. You've got some big players on that bench.
Yeah.
But
look at Liverpool's bench. Liverpool's bench isn't too shabby, No.
I'm agreeing with you. But what I'm saying is Liverpool added cups within.
Okay, so what you're
time.
saying is they've got a comparable squad, but Liverpool have got more of an end result. That's you can't disagree with that. Yeah.
And they've got some good young players that are coming through. Wanyeri, they've had Reece Nielsen, they've had Emil Smith-Rowe, they've had these players that some have moved on. But they're still playing in good sides, etc. In Nketiah. So they had players around that they should have. I don't know. I can understand Arsenal's gripe. Is it that maybe this guy, and this has got to be, it's really funny because I think the Spursy label gets labelled at Spurs all the time, right? They bottle it. They can't get over the line. They can't win a trophy. I think Arsenal get away with not being Spursy, for example, a lot.
Because of Spurs.
There's probably no bigger bottlers in the Premiership than Arsenal.
I mean, when you say bottlers, though, I don't agree with it. I don't agree with the term bottlers. Last year, sorry, not last year, the year before, last year when they were, what's that?
2 years ago, I think they were 9 points clear.
Yeah. I can understand the bottling thing then, because they should have won that league. They should have. But again, apart from that year, they're up against City and Pep. And as much as it pains me to say, they're an unstoppable force. Those people, like people are talking now about Liverpool being the favourites, and I'm like, you're insane. I've watched this happen every single year with City. You know, so I don't know. I wouldn't call them bottlers. They did bottle it, I guess, 2 years ago. But in general, if you're up against a better team with a better manager and more resources, even though Arsenal are not exactly standing on the street corner asking for spare change, you know, that they can spend money as well. But if you're up against all of those things, I don't think it's bottling it to lose it. I think you just lost it because the other team was better.
Well, this is something I wanted to get to, actually. With perception in football, we all say Manchester City, they spend what they want, they do this. Over the last 5 years since Edu's been there, Arsenal were the third highest net spend in the Premiership. So there's Chelsea, Manchester United, then Arsenal.
Yeah.
City are about 17th. I think Arsenal's net spend is about 579 million. And City's is 75 million net spend. And I don't think City actually get the praise of how well that club is run.
Now, how it's run now.
Look, that's
because
5 years.
Before then, no, they were spending like drunken sailors, weren't they? And I don't know, like 5 years, you know, that's a cycle or two in terms of players. But they spent big and early, knowing that later on they wouldn't have to do that, and also knowing that later on they couldn't do it. They had the foresight to, you know with this what's it called now? It says FFP, but they call it something else now, don't they? Whatever it is, PLSR or
PSR.
something PSR. So they got ahead. They got a head start on it by going crazy, and then make note of, I'm saying allegedly, their accounts may not be as accurate as they publish, because there's a lot of stuff going on right now with the charges.
I've got to say, I feel sorry for City in this. I've said it before, but I think what happened was when Newcastle got bought, the big boys got really upset that they could outspend them. But yet, Manchester United and Chelsea have spent more than anyone else in that 5 years.
The thing is, though, not so much Chelsea. I think Chelsea are, I mean, they're selling. What did they do? They sold a hotel to themselves to keep within PSR.
To another business within the group.
Yeah, exactly. Essentially, which, listen, was clever, because there was nothing against the laws with that, so against the rules with
but
that.
That's
so
ridiculous,
it was clever.
Though.
What's that?
It's ridiculous.
It's ridiculous, but they obviously have clever accountants. You know, that's good on them for doing it. But with United are one of the highest grossing sports teams on the planet, not just football teams. So they can spend like that and not have to worry too much about, you know, what the PSR stuff is. But City shouldn't be able to, I should say. Not they can't, because they did. But is it the Deloitte table of the the richest teams in the world based on annual turnover, right? Man City were above Real Madrid. There's no way. That doesn't make any sense.
I don't know.
That makes no sense. Do you think that makes sense?
I don't think we'd be having this conversation if City had United's recruitment team in place and City were doing poorly, because we've not really heard much moaning about
we
Chelsea,
wouldn't
because
care.
they're not challengers.
Yeah. If City were not winning, then we wouldn't care. But they are. So Fuck them.
No, yeah, I think
They're
it's a bit
above
of sour
Liverpool.
grapes.
That's all I care about.
Because it's no different to what Chelsea, Liverpool, Man United have done over the years.
It's very different from what Liverpool have done, mate. It is.
Well, no, I'm talking in the last seasons, yes, Liverpool. But I mean, historically, they always had more money than your West Hams, your Tottenhams.
Yeah,
so they
true.
They could never catch up.
You know what the perfect example of that is? Blackburn Rovers. It was Jack Walker, right?
Jack Walker,
the owner. He was like a steel guy or something. He was one of the richest men in Britain, and just went nuts. Not went nuts. They bought really well, but I'm saying went nuts and spending a lot. Brought Kenny Dalglish in as the manager. They bought Shearer. They had David Batty play for them. Tim Sherwood, I think, played for them. Tim Flowers in goal. They had, I mean, they essentially did the same thing, but the difference was then that was within the rules. There was nothing against it, you know.
And for younger fans, for example, there was a team called Blackburn Rovers. I think they're in Championship now. They won the league. They're a lesser team, I would say. A smaller club. They won the league in 94, 95, but they were pushing the season before, but they accumulated kind of what City did at the time without the sort of staggering prices that are now. They accumulated this team and they went on and won the league. And I think within 2 seasons, or 3 seasons, they were relegated.
After winning the league?
Yeah.
Yeah, they were. Yeah. It was the new because you've been to Blackburn, right?
Yeah.
I used to work in Blackburn for a minute when I lived at home. Blackburn's a tiny little town where everything looks 150 years old. Everything.
Yeah.
And it's a tiny place. They had no real right to be a big football club, except for this owner came in. It was the modern day Sheikh Mansour, modern day Roman Abramovich. Sorry, not the modern day, the opposite of the modern day. And he was just like, you know what, this is my team, and I'm going to make them the best team in the country. And he did it.
Yeah, he did it.
Yeah.
It was unbelievable. But I suppose moving on, the other big news this week is Manchester United have now got a manager, Ruben Amorim. We first saw Ruben Amorim appear last year, where he was flown over to meet with West Ham. And while David Moyes was the manager, we brought him over to come and interview. Some have said that was to also force Liverpool's hand because he was in the running for the Liverpool job after Klopp had left. I think it bowed down to West Ham. He maybe didn't fancy it, but I don't think we wanted to pay his compensation, which was about 10 million. Looks like we may have missed out on a good manager here. But there's another little bit of a risk. I know he's been working in Portugal. He's been at Sporting Lisbon. It's not the big name manager Manchester United's gone for here. Similar sort of background to Ten Hag, maybe, where he's coming from. We'll call it a lesser league, but to the Premier League. Yeah. He plays a 3 at the back. I think more attacking football. I don't know a lot about him and his tactics, to be honest with you. But what on earth has he got to do to get Manchester United back on track? Like, what's a good season for him this year?
This year?
Yeah.
Where are they now? After yesterday, they're still in the bottom half, aren't they?
Yes, they drew 1-1 with Chelsea yesterday.
If he can get them into Europe this year, which now is what, top 8, top 7?
Yeah.
Depending on a couple of things, how many Champions League places get allocated. If he can get them into Europe this year, then that would be pretty special. That would be pretty special.
Do you mean Champions League or
No, not Champions League.
Europa?
He's not going to get them in the top four in a million years. Well, not in a million years. In this season, he's not going to. That's not going to happen. However, we spoke yesterday, and I said the top 4 or 5 teams keep beating each other and getting beat by silly teams. But I still don't think that's a possibility for United this year. If he can get them in, even which they probably don't even want to be in that Conference League. That's just a headache for a club like Man United because they're going to, Eastern Europe and all that kind of stuff to play in front of. I don't think they would want that, but even if he could get them into that, I think that would be a success. Which seems crazy to say about Man United, doesn't it? That even if they got into the Conference League, it would be crazy.
Like we say that, like going into the Conference League, etc., would be sort of we kind of use it disparagingly where we say that they're too big for that. Have they fallen so far that maybe they're not? And is it that kind of rebuild now where they've got to start going, right, we go for Europa Conference first, then we're going to go for Europa and we're going to build slowly rather than say we're going for the league now without the infrastructure?
Yeah, I mean, they can't go for the league now. And I don't even think they would think that. To answer your first question, though, I don't think they've. And I know you've got an affinity with the Conference League, so I know there's a little bit of bias on your part for it. But
massive trophy, massive club has won it.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, but I don't think they've fallen that far yet, where they should be happy to be in it. But if they have another
I don't actually know.
What?
I don't actually know, to be honest with you, because I actually look at Manchester United now, and I think they, to be honest with you, I don't know what Manchester United are anymore. They have no playing style. They have a load of players that would not get into any other top teams. So I'm almost like, maybe that club needs to look at itself, be a bit realistic, and say, we're not as good as Brighton. Okay, yeah, we've got all this history.
Yeah.
We're not as good as Villa. We're not as good as Brighton.
They're not.
We're at the level of Brentford.
I mean, as a team. But there's a lot of value in being a big club, even when you're not a good team. There is.
100%.
You might not beat the likes of Brentford or Brighton. I mean, Brighton are superb, but it makes it a lot easier. Well, I guess actually United, I'm contradicting myself here because United have found it so difficult, but I feel like it makes it a lot easier to take 3 steps forward instead of half a step forward if you're a big team, because United is still a draw. Like who's that kid they signed, the centre half who got Euro? Is it Euro?
Yeah, Euro.
He got injured right against Arsenal.
Pre-season.
Yeah, Real Madrid apparently wanted him. He would never have gone to Brentford, for example, over Madrid, but he went to United over Madrid, probably because he thought he was going to get game time there. But the United still have that pull. They do. And I'll say this a million times, Ferguson and that United team ruined my childhood. They drove me crazy for every Saturday and Sunday for 9 months of the year. But there's just it's still Man United right now. But they need to get their act together. This is big for them, this appointment. He looks good, but Ten Hag looked good,
I think Ten Hag always struggled with personality and the gravitas. I don't think people probably understand as a manager, and this is where I think they probably needed. I know Sporting Lisbon and Ajax are big clubs. Manchester United is a different level of club. And the expectation is you come in and win. Like exactly that. They don't think we're going to go and chase the Conference League. We're going to, like the standards are higher from the fans. And actually, weirdly, Manchester United fans are actually one of the only fans in the Premiership, and I actually put Liverpool with this as well, that actually really do get behind a manager. They're not like other teams, like maybe Arsenal, where they lose a game, a manager should go. Like we went through the Wenger years of Arsenal, West Ham, Spurs, get rid of the manager. They actually give a manager to. In actual fact, it's probably because of the fans that Ten Hag did not get sacked in the summer because he won an FA Cup.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think clubs, fans of clubs like Liverpool and United, we almost take pride in not being the Real Madrid and the Barcelonas of the world, where if somebody loses a few games, you know, it's almost like we thrive in being the ones who want to pull someone up, and we want them to succeed. You know, I can't think, except for Steven Gerrard apart, right? I can't think of a single player that I can remember since probably the late 80s that has been more important than the manager at Liverpool. Steven Gerrard is the only one I can think of, except for maybe when Roy Hodgson was our manager, and then every single player was more important than the manager.
Yeah, Liverpool and United, they do put that emphasis on the manager with I think, where they are the figurehead of the club.
He's the most important person. He is. Slot has still got to prove himself a little bit, obviously. But even, you know, you have to look at the Liverpool fans' attitude towards Trent right now. He hasn't had a great few games, and people are agreeing with Slot when he's taken him off. I know he didn't take him off the last game, but he has taken him off a few times over the last few games, and people are agreeing with him. And you would never have really thought that, you know. You would never thought it, but
I think he's got to come in, Amorim, and he's got to set the standards. Now, I suppose this is where you can, with Manchester United, where the difference between being at Brentford or Manchester United, if they want to change the team, they can do it quite significantly, quickly, whereas a smaller club cannot. Like even Villa, for example, even though Villa's got a very wealthy owner, but they can't just change that side. This year, they went and changed that side quite dramatically. They bought 2 centre-halves, the forward player in Xerxes, the left back in I can't think of his name now, who come from Bayern. He came with the lit, didn't he? Nasraoui. He came in yeah. So they significantly changed it, but they really backed Ten Hag with his players, because a lot of these players he worked with before. Amorim might not think any of these players are up to his style. Like, if he wants to play 3 centre-halves, they probably got centre-halves that could do that. In Maguire, De Ligt.
They don't have the fullbacks to do it, though, I don't think.
This is a big thing. So if you want to play 3 at the back, but if you haven't got the fullbacks that you think can do it, I think they're very, very lacking in striker. I think they bought Rasmus Højlund, big money, 70 million, I think. It was almost unfair on him at his age.
Yeah.
That coming into that club to be the figurehead of that club, he almost needed to be bought as the backup striker. It was hell of a money for a backup striker. For me, Manchester United have got recruitment so wrong. And they've bought in recruitment teams now from Newcastle, etc. And it doesn't seem that they've got the right players. Maybe a new manager will get a different tune out of them. I know they won really convincingly in the week in the League Cup against Leicester.
But yesterday, I know we'll get onto the weekend's games, but yesterday was, oh my God.
So the game yesterday, they played Chelsea yesterday at Old Trafford. It was a boring game, wasn't it?
It was just poor quality. It was, you know, you used to see Jose Mourinho would bore me to tears sometimes with his games because he was so defensive. But you could still appreciate the quality was there. But yesterday it was boring and there was no quality. It was like, it was like going to watch Phoenix Rising here. It was just, and no offense to Phoenix Rising, but it was poor. It was the quality wasn't there for a Premier League, two big Premier League teams.
So Maresca's come in and he's done, I think, a good job of settling the club down a little bit at Chelsea, because we've had Potter, we've had Pochettino, who were actually talking a lot about, obviously, too many players and all this, what's gone on there. But he seems to have settled them. And in some ways, he's gone quite under the radar. I don't think I've even heard him speak, actually. But he is assembling a strong team of young players here.
Yeah, he is. And I actually heard his interview yesterday. He speaks really well. But I think one of the reasons he's gone under the radar is because they had a terrible preseason. They were getting spanked left, right, and center in America.
Yeah.
And I don't think people expected much of them. I think he was actually one of the favorites to get sacked at the start of the season.
Yeah.
Yeah. But he speaks really well. I mean, I like him. I really don't know much about him at all, but I like him. Chelsea seem, as much as I would say this about Man United, Chelsea seem to be back, and I don't like it. I don't want them to be back.
Yeah, I think they've got a couple of years. I think they're in desperate need of a goalkeeper.
Yeah,
I know
they are.
Sanchez.
Yeah.
He's not a top quality goalkeeper, in my opinion.
No, nowhere near.
Again this week, we've seen more goalkeeper errors. We've seen more playing out from the back that got caught out. It just seems to be the running theme now of football.
Well, you saw the pen that he gave away.
The penalty, yeah, that he gave away against Manchester United.
That was ridiculous. He was going away from goal, and he didn't pull his arm back. That was, he's a poor goalkeeper. But like you're saying, goalkeeping in general in the Premier League, it's not. Which, ironically, I think we've got two of the best goalkeepers in the world in the Premier League. Maybe even three of them. Maybe even three, yeah. But in general, they're not good.
No, I agree. Like, we look at even West Ham. We got Fabianski back in goal now, who's 30. He's 39.
Yeah.
Like, this is because Ariola's come in, he makes too many mistakes. He's passing. I think when you think back to football years ago, goalkeepers were they were real goalkeepers then. You look at Peter Schmeichel, Petr Cech, David James, all these people, David Seaman.
Even going back before then to Neville Southall. Neville Southall was, there was a time when I think he was the best goalkeeper in the world, Neville Southall. He was amazing.
So Neville Southall played for Everton when Everton were a good club.
That's in the mid-'80s when they were Liverpool and Everton were challenging each other for 4 years at the top of the league. What's that?
And Everton won the league.
They did win, and they won remember the Cup Winners' Cup? Remember the Cup Winners' Cup? What's the equivalent now? It's not the UEFA Cup, is it? I suppose.
Well,
it just
UEFA Cup is the Euros, not Europe. Europa League.
Europa League is the old UEFA Cup. Champions League is the new European Cup. But there's no equivalent to the Cup Winners' Cup. So the Cup Winners' Cup was in England, for example, you had the FA Cup. In Spain, I think they call it the King's Cup, right? Something like that. And so every team in Europe who won their domestic cup would then go and play each other the next season in the Cup Winners' Cup. That was a good competition, wasn't it? Because it was a competition of not the best teams, but still you get the little rascals in there that are just, Liverpool are playing Denmark all the time or somewhere in Scandinavia all the time against these teams, and you'd be like, who are, my God, I can't even think of one of those clubs now, but who is this? And then they'd
Yeah.
come over to Anfield. It was usually 2 legs when you got to the semi-finals and stuff, maybe the quarters. But that was proper knockout football. That was proper knockout football there.
Yeah, it was. I can always remember one Arsenal losing in the final. It was the old one, Naeem from the halfway line. He was an
Where
old
he lobbed
Spurs player.
Seaman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
he done
wow.
that. But the Chelsea United game, for example, was pretty poor. There was, to be honest, it wasn't amazing games this weekend. I didn't think.
The Liverpool
We
Brighton
had
game was good, you
obviously.
know.
Pardon?
Did you watch the Liverpool Brighton game? No, because West Ham were playing at the same time, weren't they? I
Yes,
think.
but I have watched it, and I thought actually Brighton were really, really good.
They should have been 2-0 up at half time. Maybe even
They
3.
brilliant, I thought.
Yeah. That was a good game just because the first half was all Brighton. Second half, Liverpool. I think Liverpool deserved it, but I'm probably being biased. But that was a good game. The second half especially was superb. I mean, Salah.
This guy, and I'm seeing breaking news at the moment that apparently Saudi are really going to push for him this year.
Where are you
It's
seeing
breaking
this?
news on Sky Sports. It was just before I came on. It said that they were looking like they're going to put a bid in. I saw something.
When,
It
though?
might not
Why
be
would
Sky
they
Sports,
put
it
a
might be
bid in?
Athletic, someone. I saw something that basically said they're going to push hard for Salah this year. He's obviously out of contract.
He did a post, an Instagram post, and he's not like he's never been the sort of player that comments on this stuff. And I'm trying to remember off the top of my head, but the Instagram post was something like, "No matter what happens, I'll never forget the feeling of scoring at Anfield." And
I saw that.
yeah, and when I saw that, I was like, I don't know with him because although I think him personally, obviously don't know him at all, but him personally, I think he's very, very quiet, seems very quiet, very respectful, very humble, all that kind of stuff. But his agent seems to know which buttons to press, and his agent might have said, "Listen, they're not budging. They want to put you on a lower wage. They only want to give you another year. They're not budging. I think you maybe need to turn the pressure up a little bit because he's done that before. But listen, I mean, whatever happens, he's Liverpool's top Premier League goal scorer ever now. Now he went over Robbie Fowler,
And he's
which is
just
wild.
behind Thierry Henry now as well.
I think he's just a handful of goals behind, isn't he? Which is crazy considering, and I know Henry spent a lot of his time on the wing, but Salah's a winger. He doesn't play in the centre. He rarely plays in the centre. It's crazy. But anyway, regardless of that, the games this weekend there's not really one that stands out to me as
No, well, I suppose the big news is Liverpool won. They got it over the line. They've gone top. Arsenal lost to Bournemouth. We've got to give Bournemouth some credit here. What results they've had in their last 3 games? They've beaten Arsenal, Manchester City, and they drew with Villa. Their last 3 games. So sorry, they've beaten Manchester City this weekend. I think I said they beat Arsenal. They beat Arsenal the other week.
right.
It was incredible. I don't think City, I've said it already, I don't think City look right. I've got to say, Pep gave Bournemouth a lot of respect. Said, look, I thought they were really good. We lacked the intensity. And maybe they did. They had a big game. They lost in the week against Spurs in the League Cup, which was a big result for Spurs. I think he's got some injuries there at the moment. For me, the Rodri out of the middle seems to have tipped that team a little bit. They just don't look great at the back this year. I don't know if it's without that pivot of Rodri being there. And I think probably then you see how good of a player he actually is, because Kovacic actually is doing a very good job. But Rodri, I think, is that extra level. And I think when you take him out, it maybe upsets the balance of the team a bit. So I think,
I hope
for
you're right,
me,
mate.
I think City are beatable this year.
I listen. I hope you're right, but anyone who's been a Liverpool fan and who's closely followed the league for the last 6 or 7 years knows, don't get your hopes up, because City will more than likely come back and just win it. It happens so it's happened so much with Liverpool fans. I mean, I think one year we got 99 points, I think it was, and didn't win the league.
And City
99.
are, and just to put that in context as well, that year Liverpool comes second.
Yeah.
They finished 16 points, I think it was, above Arsenal's Invincibles.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, the Arsenal Invincibles, they drew a lot, didn't they? They drew a lot
But
of games.
they won the league,
They
and
won
you
the
was
league,
that
yeah.
many points above
Yeah.
that team. So it
Yeah,
shows
yeah.
the bar that was set.
Yeah.
Huge. A
Yeah.
question for you. How big of a hero would Slot be if he managed to win the league in his first season at Liverpool?
He'd be a massive hero, obviously. But winning he'd be up there with Benitez, for example. And we all love Benitez.
Bigger than Klopp?
No. After 1 year? No way. How?
Straight in and win the league?
No. If he won, he'd have to do a lot to be bigger than Klopp. I mean, Klopp's up there with Shankly, especially for modern day Liverpool fans. Paisley, maybe he'd be there with the likes of Benitez, Fagan, Joe Fagan. But I mean, listen, after 1 year, that'd be amazing. I think, and I think I said this to you the other day, if he wins the league in his first year, which honestly, I'm not even, my mind isn't even going there yet. But if he wins the league in his first season, that will be the best first season that any Premier League manager's ever had.
Well, Jose did it.
Yeah, but Jose spent about 100 million, when back then 100 million was worth 400 million
no,
now.
let's give it though. Slot has also been left a very good side.
He has, but he hasn't spent a penny of it.
No.
I mean, from that Chiesa, who's I'd be surprised if he ever plays a game for us. But no, he has been left a really good side, but he hasn't been left a perfect side though. Like the way he brought Gravenberch in there, and they were trying to buy. Oh my God, who was it from Spain?
Oh, yeah, I can't think of his name.
Sociedad. I don't know why I can't remember his name, but anyway, they were close to signing him. So they obviously wanted somebody to play that number 6 role. They couldn't get him, so he put Gravenberch in there, and Gravenberch has been, maybe him and Salah have probably been our 2 best players this season. So anyway, to answer the question,
just quickly as well, he's doing it without Alisson as well.
Exactly. He's doing it without Alisson. He's having to play Tsimikas left back because Robertson just doesn't. I don't know whether he's got a bit of a hangover from the summer, from the the Euros with Scotland. But he hasn't been his best, and Robertson's a big part of Liverpool, how Liverpool work. He seems to be getting the best out of Núñez, which is amazing because I really like Núñez. He's a nutcase. The lad is a proper maniac. And when somebody like that is on form, that's a Liverpool player. Yeah, I mean, but he hasn't brought anyone in. He's working with a team that's not his. He might change one or two things maybe in the summer.
I think it's a wait and see with Liverpool. I think they couldn't have had a better start.
No.
Great weekend for them. They capitalised when the others dropped, which is really what you want. When they drop, be ruthless, pounce.
Yeah.
It's the chances. It's them little chances that you get, because even Villa was smashed by Spurs this week.
I know.
4-1.
I know. Crazy.
And
I wasn't expecting that at all.
Yeah, I don't think anyone saw that really coming with Spurs. I find Spurs I think a lot of people like watching Spurs. I'm saying this as a West Ham fan, and obviously I hate Spurs, but they are entertaining to watch. I don't know if they've got a team that could go to top 4, to be honest with you. I think there's other better teams than them.
Who?
But they could. They've
Who-
got the
who-
potential. I think this year for Spurs, they've really got to focus on winning the Europa League. I think that would be a big statement for them. Or a League Cup, I think Spurs fans would probably take that over a league position, maybe, because
just to get the monkey off the back, sort of thing. Just to, because we all always give them stick, don't we, about they can't win a trophy. I think you might be right there. Do you think they take the League Cup over 4th place?
And that's where I think you look at some Spurs fans where they're a bit more deluded. I think they'd say no because they think they're a bigger club than they are. But I actually think there's nothing better than just winning trophies. Doesn't matter what they are. Trophies breed winners.
Would you? Okay, so then as a West Ham fan,
more.
As a West Ham fan, what?
That trophy changed West Ham.
No, okay. Well, all right. So this season, though, would you take 4th place over the League Cup?
Well, West Ham are not going to be in the... I'd take staying in the league at the moment.
Hypothetically, though.
Yeah, for West Ham, yeah, I would. Because
you take 4th?
Ultimately, I look at West Ham, right? And it's not even a conversation. Maybe a couple of years ago where we were on a right track. Champions League football's all well and good, but you go and get beat straight away in the early rounds and you go out, etc. Because we're not equipped to be in the Champions League.
Yeah.
I would take that day out at Wembley over any that Europa Conference title. I will never, even if West Ham won the league, will never get that feeling that I had behind me here at that final whistle ever again. That will never be replicated in my lifetime, of that feeling. 41 years of watching them win nothing to win something. And now other clubs will say, oh, well, it's only a conference league. But it wasn't. It was, I suppose, for teams like us, it was the journey with all our mates for 40 years.
I know what you mean.
To see them lift something was so much more than, I think, even win the Champions League now. Because for West Ham to win the Champions League means we've got to be bought. We've got to spend a ridiculous amount of money. We're going to be a different club if that happens. In case of the City, I think that winning it in our own way was such a monumental thing for us that it will never be taken away from us.
You're right. It's the journey. It's being with your mates. It's being with people who, you know, you've watched the team be shit with, and then
we've like
you know, you've had some.
Last year, I think it was. I travelled to Anfield after I was in England. I travelled to Anfield, went up on the train, couldn't get a train back. We watched them lose 5-1 or 6-1. I got soaked watching the game. Coming back, we had to come back on a coach. It took like 5 hours, 6 hours. Then I got dropped off at a stop. I then had a 40-minute taxi ride home. Like, that's the difference of supporting a lower end of the league team. Yeah. And that's where it probably makes me so frustrated now that we were on the cusp of, we're just coming through it. We're challenging to be in Europe every year, and then we make this appointment this year that has set us back. It could be 5 years now.
Have you made your mind up on this fella? You made your mind up. It's just not going to happen for him.
So West Ham were beaten. We might as well go into it. We were beaten comprehensively again this weekend by Nottingham Forest, who went up into 3rd in the league. Forest, I think under Nuno last year, they started. He didn't do amazing. He's done something over the summer to them where they've really started going. They've got a striker in Chris Wood, who's almost a throwback to an old day striker, big guy. He looks, I know he's not British, he's a New Zealander, but I think he's now Forest's top Premiership goal scorer, but he's scored like 9 goals in 10 games. He's second to Haaland. They've got a tight defence. They've got a clear way of playing. Whereas West Ham, we had a clear identity under Moyes, whether a lot of people liked it or not. We had a very clear identity. We were a more defensive team, but we are shipping goals left, right, and centre, and we are clueless with how we play. There is no, I can't see anything of what we are. It's a different team every week, a different formation every week, which tells me the manager hasn't got a clue himself. There's different personnel in there every week, trying new things. Alvarez, the midfielder, they done a segment on him on Match of Day last week, saying that this guy's not up to Premiership pace, and he goes and gets sent off in the first half again this week. Just from being off the pace, 2 bookings again. I think
can a manager like
West
that
Ham
not
spent
know?
a lot of money.
How can a manager like that not know? You know, like for me, it doesn't make sense that a man, you know, because listen, I know, how long was he Spain manager for? He's Spain manager
Well,
for,
he was the Real Madrid. He was the Spain manager, and then he took the Real Madrid before the World Cup, I think it was.
and then they
Spain
got
let
rid
him
of him
go
because of it.
just before the tournament, and they said, "Look, we can't have that." Basically, so they took him out. He lasted 9 weeks at Madrid, so he lived up a little bit if he was the Real Madrid manager. Yeah. But he lasted 9 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, but still, even though most people don't get given the Real Madrid job, he must have something about him. He must do.
He done well at Sevilla. He came into Wolves, and he lasted half a season there, where he kind of got them.
But Wolves were a shit show then, though. To be fair, weren't they? Wolves were like being. They had a ton of like, who's that Portuguese agent? Ronaldo's agent, Mendes. He was running the show over there, basically, wasn't he? Or that's
they had Neto in that team. They had Neves. Yeah. They had some good players in that team, and I think that worked well for him. He fell out with them over signings, left. Gary O'Neill took over. I don't see anything, and I think West Ham, they need to be brave, and it's almost like the owners, they're a little bit too loyal to someone, but this is rotter's set in now at West Ham. I would like us to see, because now it's all I see is, well, you should have kept Moyes, right? The answer shouldn't be, it's David Moyes or nothing. The answer was, if you wanted to go a different style, you had to go for a different style of manager. Yeah. We went, I think, for a lesser Moyes, because I think, would we have been better off keeping Moyes? 100%, but that's with the option of this guy. And a lot of West Ham fans were not happy with this guy when he was appointed. Yeah. And we didn't go for a new, up-and-coming, play a different brand of football, etc.
Amorim, for example.
Amorim. Look at Brighton. They went for a young guy, 31 years of age.
How old is
he? Look at him.
Is he 31? Am I right in thinking he's 31?
Yeah.
Crazy.
Even the Bournemouth manager looks fantastic. They found him from somewhere. None of us knew these guys before they come to the Premiership. They found them. Even maybe someone in the Premiership, Marco Silva, Thomas Frank. You go out and get them. Say, look, we're West Ham. We've just won a trophy. And this is about setting the standards, not we're West Ham. We're still kind of round by you. We're now pushing on. Go out and actually attract them, because now what you've got to do is attract someone to the club with you in a bad position. And now all of a sudden, it's forgotten West Ham won a trophy 2 years ago. It's back to, would I want to go West Ham? I don't really know.
So do you don't think he's going to last the season, this fella?
No, I think he loses against Everton this week. He's done. It'd be unobtainable. I think at the moment, it's weird because West Ham fans are very quick to judge. I think the fans are split 50-50, like they were on Moyes. There's a lot of people, and I think it's a lot of people who wanted Moyes out, are being a bit coy, saying, well, let's give him a bit of a chance, I have seen nothing. And I actually said this on the first pre-season game we played against Wolves in America. I went and watched it, and I said, this guy, he's not it. I could see it. He had no tactics whatsoever in that game. And
what's the alternative,
I actually
though?
think he's the worst West Ham manager we will ever. And Avram Grant is our worst ever manager. He took us down.
Mm-hmm.
I think we will be very, very close to going down this year with him in the side.
But so think of all the like the Uniteds and the Chelseas and obviously Liverpool who've changed the managers in the summer, and I think there's a couple of other big teams as well. But anyway, those actually, well, I guess United didn't change in the summer, but you know what I'm saying. They struggle to find a top-notch replacement. Like for example, with United, and this is the thing with this Amorim fella that interests me is that United interviewed him apparently in the summer and decided against him because for some reason they thought Ten Hag would be the better option to keep on. Now they've changed their mind. Liverpool, I think they wanted Alonso in the summer. I think
Yeah,
it wasn't going to happen, so they went with Slot. Chelsea, I really don't know much about how Chelsea's managers search went, but it seems that it's not that easy to find managers these days. So if they get rid of this fella, who's the alternative?
I think with West Ham, I think what comes into it, we go always the cheap option. We let the manager's contract run down like Moyes, so we didn't have to pay a compensation. We went for an out-of-work manager, so there was no compensation. But yet we've let him spend 150 million. So why not pay 10 million,
true.
20 million that you've got to get? See, if you ask me who my wish list would be for a West Ham manager, I would love Fabregas. I've said it before. Because I'd like to go for someone completely new, different direction, young, different style of football. Let's go and see it. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But
and he knows London.
Knows London. Knows the Premiership inside out. I've got to buck the trend here a little bit. I would love Jose Mourinho, which is going with that older style manager. But I think Jose, you're probably getting for 2 years. Yeah. Come and set a winning mentality with West Ham. I think it'd also be a bit of fun with Jose at West Ham because I think he could really play
I think that's
underdog.
An understatement. I think fun would be guaranteed.
Because I think
he's not doing too well in Turkey though.
Really well. There's the Borussia Dortmund manager who got into Champions League.
He's out to work. Yeah, he's out to work, isn't he still?
And he was our assistant manager under Bilic.
Yeah.
So there's him. Or you go and say to someone like Thomas Frank, and then there's Graham Potter. Now, I think Graham Potter actually probably gets a bit of a hard rap because we look at him at Chelsea and go, well, he didn't do it. West Ham's a very different club to Chelsea. It's a lot smaller club than Chelsea. Maybe the gravitas of Chelsea and the amount of players. He'd never dealt with any of that before. I think at West Ham, it would be quite a similar job to usual as Brighton, and actually done a very good job at Brighton. So
he did.
Obviously out of work, there's no compensation there. They would be my list of managers, but I wouldn't be surprised if we went and interviewed David Moyes straight away. The owners went back and said, would you come back?
So?
And I think he would actually turn us down.
I would
not be surprised if he was the first call from the owners to say, would you? And I think that's the problem with us. We're not, I won't say ambitious enough because I know the owners well and they want the best for the club. They really do. They're such good people. But I think sometimes we get a bit stuck on safety. What we think is a safe bet. They won't get us relegated. They won't. And I don't think the club could handle Jose, to be honest with you. Because I think...
when you say the club, you mean the owners?
Yeah, I think Jose calls it out if it's not what he thinks. And if his results don't come at what he wants, he'll start calling out the training ground. He'll start calling out things to deflect off himself. And I think the club actually don't need that because then... all of a sudden, the West Ham fans will probably get behind that manager and then demanding the change from the ownership.
True.
So I think that is a tough one for them. I'd love to see it, and I'd love to see Jose not do that, obviously. But West Ham has got a terrible training ground. It's one of the. I think when David Moyes done an assessment on it, it's at the
Are
bottom
they
end of the
still?
Championship.
Is it Chigwell where they are?
They're in Romford. They used to be.
Romford.
It's Tottenham in Chigwell.
Tottenham.
They used to be at Chadwell Heath, and now they've moved to Rush Green. But our training facilities are porta cabins, so we have not got a state-of-the-art training facility. So it's hard, I think, for a manager to come in and go to them facilities and perform miracles
and be excited about it. Who was it? Was it a player that? Oh, it was. I think this was one of Harry Redknapp's stories where he said he signed up because is it? I'm assuming it's the same training ground from when Harry Redknapp was there.
Well, the kids train
there,
at
right?
where Harry used to manage.
Okay,
now.
So he said he signed someone. I can't remember what it was. I'll make it quick because I don't know the details. But basically signed someone. He's like showed them around Upton Park and stuff like that. Really impressed. He's like, let's go to the players. Like, let's go to the training ground. Harry was like, we don't need to go there, mate. It's all. Let's go out for some dinner. Didn't show him the training ground and all that kind of stuff. The players showed up the next day, first day of training, and was like, what the fuck is this place?
Well, I'm sure it's like that now because obviously we take them to the London Stadium and most people come over and go, what, it's a 65,000 seater stadium. And then they must turn up to work on the first day and think, what the fuck is this? We're in Romford.
Sure.
We're like, and it's poor facilities. So that is something we've got to look at. And I think I'd like to see the owners maybe say, you know what, we haven't got the budget for players this year. We're gonna improve the training ground. This is what
how much can it cost? A couple of bad signings, basically.
30 million, but like, yes, what I mean, like 30 million, maybe. Maybe it's more.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm completely off on that. Maybe it's a lot more than that. Maybe it's 100 million, but I think you need it to compete. But I think we've got Everton this week. I think I'd like to see us lose to get rid of this man quickly. Because
that's a crazy mentality for me. I don't
honestly,
that.
If you watched West Ham, you would understand how bad it actually is. I can see where this is going. Where I do think if you cut him now, get a manager in, let's just say a manager that comes and works, I do think we can still push for those European spots at this moment with someone who actually, because I don't think we've got a bad side. But I think it's the tactics we use that are making this side look even worse. Yeah. And we've got to remember, in the summer, Kudus is we're going to lose Paqueta probably through the betting, and who has been poor this year. But we are probably going to sell Kudus because he's going to raise probably 80 million. They're saying Arsenal are looking at him, City. So we've got a little bit of time to go. But if you leave it too late, we're not going to be at that level. Then we lose Kudus. Then
Yeah. And then no one wants to come. Yeah. And then
right now you can wipe off 10 games and actually get a few points, and we're actually not that far away from other teams. We're only 6 points off of other teams. So that's a couple of wins. That's still doable. But I think whenever you hear, like I'm hearing now, it's like a must-win game for the manager. I think as soon as you say that, you know this guy is not right.
Yeah, because even if you win that game, the next game's also a must-win.
Exactly.
And then the next game is, and the likelihood of winning 3 games on a run when you're on a bad run of form, it's not going to happen. And then the pressure, it's
we've just seen that with Ten Hag. It's not. He couldn't get it back. Oh, it's a must-win. They lost again. Oh, it's a
kicking
draw.
the ball
no,
down
it's a
the
must-win.
road. Yeah,
just write it off, get rid of them, and say it didn't work. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
and before,
cut your losses.
To be honest with you, and West Ham is one of those places where it can turn toxic very, very quickly. Yeah, and
like Everton. Do you know what? Everton's the same. Everton's the same.
Because the fans get pissed off, and ultimately, our fans are quite easy to keep happy with. Like, if you're a manager of West Ham, you come in, you do the irons like that, you get the fans on side, you win a few games.
They love a bit of that, don't they?
You go, we're going to go for the cup this year, and you beat a couple of big teams. West Ham fans are actually ultimately happy, and they're
Yeah.
going. You can see a little bit of progression. We're not expecting Champions League. We're not expecting these things. So we're expecting to be pushing with Bournemouth, Brighton, and really we see ourselves as a bigger club than them historically.
Well, you are a bigger club than them, but they're just not behaving like that on the pitch, are they?
No.
You know?
Right, I think that is all we got time for today. So we're about to wrap it up. Everyone, follow us on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple. Please subscribe. Please give us a little like or a review. That would really help us get up the podcast charts.
5 stars.
What'd you say, Tone?
I said little 5-star review is what we want.
Little 5-star review would be really, really nice. And we'll see you next week. So next Monday, we are going to try and add another episode in, probably after the international break.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks,
very
everyone.
much.
Cheers.